Hello. In this video, we're going to go through learning target 232, which is to be able to write and graph a quadratic given our zeros. So essentially what we are doing when we're given our zeros and asked to graph is we're going to work backwards from factoring. So if we were finding these zeros, I can factor this by finding what multiplies to 8 and adds to 6. So I can find my pairs of factors, and I know that the pair that I am looking for is 2 and 4. So now again, those are not my answers. I need to put this in factored form and then solve it. So I have parentheses x plus 2, x plus 4. Split those into two separate problems. And you get your answers of -2 and -4. So this type of graphing basically starts here, and it says, okay, your x-intercepts are -2 and -4. Now, how do you get back to your equation, and then how do we graph that? So to do this, we just work backwards. So we have 3 steps. Step 1 is to write our zeros as factors. And remember that your factors have the opposite sign of your zeros. Once you get there, so these are our factors, once you get to this spot, instead of like dividing, which is what factoring is, we are going to multiply, which will give us our equation. And then you are going to graph. So let's do an example of what that looks like. It tells us we have roots at -4 and 1 and says to graph. So I'm going to first start by graphing these because I know that they are on my quadratic. So -4 and +1. There we go. And now I need a minimum of 3 points to be able to graph a quadratic function. And specifically what I'm missing is my vertex. Ideally, I want more than 3 points, but minimum, I need my vertex and 2 points, one on either side, so that I can draw an accurate parabola. In order to do that, I'm going to have to do these steps. So I'm first going to write my roots as factors. So I'm going to have parentheses x plus 4, the opposite of negative, and parentheses x minus 1, the opposite of +1. Then I'm going to go ahead and multiply these out. And you can do the distributive method or you can do the box method. Either way, I think students make less mistakes with the box. So I'm going to draw a box and align my factors on the side. And I'm going to multiply those out. Remember, when you multiply x times x, you get x squared. The rest of your boxes should be filled in like this as you multiply. And then we are going to write our equation from this. Just make sure you combine your like terms, which are diagonal from each other, so you get your equation x squared plus 3x minus 4. So this is our equation. So now it also wants us to finish graphing. So now that I have my equation, I need to find my vertex so I can find where on this graph my vertex is going to go. And in order to do that, we need to use our formula for the line of symmetry, which is x equals -b over 2a. So I get -3 over 2 times 1, which simplifies to -1.5. And then you're going to take that x value and plug it back into your equation that you created to figure out what the y value for your vertex is. And you can plug all of this into your calculator and you get -6.25. So my vertex is -1.5, comma, -6.25. And I'm going to put that on my graph. So now I know this looks like a parabola, so I could, in theory, draw my parabola right now with just these 3 points, because again, minimum you need 3 points. However, I always think it's beneficial to add a couple more points just to make sure that your parabola looks how it should, especially if these points are very close together. Like when you do this U-try, they're going to be very close together, so it'll be hard to see what the parabola is going to look like. So to add extra points, you can just find any x value that's near your parabola and plug that into your equation. So for example, I can plug in 2 to my equation and see what it gets me, so I know where on this line I'm going to have another dot. So if I plug in 2 to my equation, I get 6. So I can add 2 comma 6 to my graph. That looks good. And then remember, parabolas are mirrored to each other. So this dot is one line away from this x-intercept. So if I go to my other side and I go one line away, I can also go up 6. And that point exists as well. So that was at -5 comma 6 because they're a mirror. So then I can go ahead and connect my dots into a parabola. Now you don't need to add the extra points if you can draw the parabola without them, but if your points are very close together, you'll probably need to add some extra points. So that's why I showed you. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and do the U-try and then unpause to see the answer. So I have my work up here for this U-try. So you can see how my x-intercepts and my vertex were very close together. So I added extra points at 0 and 5. Those are 2 lines away from my x-intercepts, and those gave me 6. The only reason I chose 0 instead of 1, for example, is because 0 is pretty easy to plug in. 0 and 0 plus 6 gives me 6. And that's it. I hope this helped.